Hey guys, it's Scott with Scotty B Cards. In other words, a sad Rockies fan. 2 weeks ago, the Rockies traded probably the best franchise player of all time to the St. Louis Cardinals and paid them to take him. In this episode, I want to review who I think's card values could be increasing and how you can make some money because of this trade. Alright guys, as you can tell, I took the bag off my face and try not to be too ashamed as a Rockies fan. It's kind of a sad time in franchise history, but that's okay. I'm still an Arenado fan. I've collected his cards for years. I've always loved Nolan Arenado. Honestly, he is probably the one player that got me back into baseball cards. I was always a basketball card collector, and he really made me a baseball card lover. So the very first thing I want to talk about, there's 3 players I want to mention that will be able to possibly make some money on. And I want to talk about why each player could have the potential to help you make some money. So the very first one is simply Nolan Arenado. And the reason being, there's a couple reasons. The first one is that he has very limited rookies in comparison to the modern players. Limited rookies when you go to a new team like St. Louis is good because they want to either try to collect all the rookies or they want to do their best to scoop up the very best rookies. And so if you have any good rookies of Arenado, they're going to go up simply because there's not many sets and it's easy to identify which cards people will want. So that's the first reasoning. Second of all, he's on a Hall of Fame path. WAR is actually taken into consideration the ballpark. His numbers might regress a little bit because he is playing in a not so hitter-friendly environment with the Cardinals, but he's still around 40 WAR, which is amazing. His defense will play for the Cardinals. He will gain an extra probably 10 to 15 WAR defensively the rest of his career. So if he's just an average bat, he will probably make the Hall of Fame if he plays average offense, great defense. I still think Arenado will figure it out. A lot of players who are on the Rockies have this thing called the reverse Coors effect. What that is when you play in Colorado, the ball breaks hardly at all. So a curveball breaks, let's say, a third of what it normally would break, and that's partially why it's so easy to hit there. The outfield is larger, so you do get some extra base hits, but that is also taken into consideration in regards to OPS plus, WAR, all these metrics. I still say Arenado is good. But when you go on the road, especially where the Rockies play in the NL West, if let's say he goes to San Diego, or even LA, in that stadium, both of those stadiums, even the Giants, all 3 of those stadiums are all really, really not hitter friendly. They're very pitcher friendly. And so not only is Arenado going to from an extreme hitter's paradise to like a pitcher's paradise, but on top of that, because the ball only broke a third of the amount in Colorado, it's breaking like 3 times more on the road, the full break, which makes it extremely hard to hit for the first few games. That impacts his numbers. So I think in the long run, it might have a really short time with St. Louis where he struggles for a little bit, but I think he'll be just fine. Look at DJ LeMahieu. He actually got better because the stadium played well to his bat. Probably one of the reasons why the Yankees went after him so hard. But he's on a Hall of Fame path. He has limited rookies. He's in a bigger market, like I said, which is great for cards. You want people to want the cards. That's why Aaron Judge sells for so much, even though he has not done that much the last few years. On top of that, he will make the playoffs, which is great. The NL Central is not good. You have the Brewers who are okay, and then you have the Cardinals who are good, and that's about it. So he will make the playoffs more. The national stage is fantastic for card values, and that will just make sure his stuff stays high throughout the year. So let's look at Nolan Arenado's rookie cards for his 2013 Topps update. So prior to the trade, it was about 140 to 180, and they were all over in that range. After the trade, they're consistently $250 plus. There may be a few lower and a few higher, but right there is $250 is where they're sitting. So you can see he's already gone up, and if he plays well at the Cardinals fans will welcome him in with open arms in regards to collecting, which will help his values go up even higher. If you look at Mookie Betts, who has more PSA 10s than Nolan Arenado, and is a better player, in my opinion, he is sitting around $1,100, but last year at this time, he's about the same as Arenado when he went to the Dodgers, so there's a chance Arenado could get higher as Mookie Betts did. And it's a good buying opportunity for you with only 3,037 PSA 10s. On top of that, he has that star power. That lineup is going to be really solid with him and Goldschmidt back-to-back. Goldschmidt was a stud with the Diamondbacks. And went to the Cardinals, his first year he was okay, about a 2 WAR player when he's usually a 5 to 6 WAR player. Last year he was really good again. He had 2.4 WAR, or right around there. So higher than the full 2019 season and only 60 games in 2020. I think with Arenado behind him in the lineup, it's only going to help his offensive numbers. He had Marcell Ozuna a while back, but Ozuna was awful with the Cardinals in comparison to how he is with the Braves. So Arenado's only going to help Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt's only going to help Arenado, and it'll raise both values. So that leads into the second player I think you should look into, who is Paul Goldschmidt. And again, the reason being is because he has that better lineup, with Arenado now behind him. There's a lot of star power in that lineup with those two. He'll be in the playoffs, which is basically some of the same features. But as well, Paul Goldschmidt is on a sneaky Hall of Fame trajectory. He has 45 Baseball Reference WAR, and his cards are super cheap in comparison to other superstars. I think Paul Goldschmidt will get there. He has to have a above average career for the next 3 or 4 years. If he can become a 2-3 WAR player for the next 3 or 4 years, he will be there. He's at 45 WAR now, so I'd put him at 12 more WAR. He's sitting at 57, right around that 60 mark that you kind of need to be as a first baseman. But on top of that, not only is he good offensively, he's good defensively, which will help his longevity in the league. So I would look at Paul Goldschmidt. Let's just take a peek at his PSA 10 rookie cards. So if you look at his 2011 Topps update, his PSA 10 prior to the Nolan Arenado trade was $60 to $100. So super cheap, has a low pop of 1,132. But once Arenado got traded, people already started to see this, and now his card goes for about 100 to 160. 160 is more average. 60 previously was average. It's almost a $100 swing in just a couple weeks because of Arenado. And that will continue to go up if they both play well. If Goldschmidt can play well with Arenado behind him, his cards will go back up to where they were when he was with Arizona. He was always a pretty expensive player, but his cards just haven't grown. So there's a really good arbitrage opportunity there to scoop up some of his stuff before it's too late. I've been buying some. I want to pick up a Bowman Chrome autograph, and hopefully before this video airs, I will have one. So that's one player I would look at is Paul Goldschmidt. And the final player I want you to consider buying is Trevor Story. The reason being is because Trevor Story is in the same situation as Nolan Arenado. He is a very, very good player. Nolan Arenado took about 4 or 5 years to become the media darling that he is now. Prior to that, he had very similar numbers to Trevor Story. On top of that, he had very similar defensive powers to Trevor Story. Trevor Story is not as good defensively as Arenado, but if you dig into it, he's a fantastic defender, even if you look up some of his highlights. And Trevor Story is a free agent at the end of this year. If the Rockies suck, which probably will happen, unfortunately, they will trade him. That's just how the Rockies work. Unless they can sign him to a free agent deal before the season starts, I think Trevor Story is gone. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But he has extremely low population reports on every single card. Topps Chrome, Topps Update, all of his rookie cards. His Topps Update rookie card is probably one of the most undervalued rookie cards in all of baseball right now. If you actually look it up, you probably haven't even seen it. Now, his Topps Chrome is probably the more popular looking card, but Topps Update, because it is a different image than his Topps Chrome, I think eventually will get its recognition, just like other players have gotten their recognition, like Cody Bellinger. His Topps Update is different than his Topps Chrome, and people like the Topps Update better now. So he has low pops. He's the face of the Rockies now that Arenado's gone, which will be big. If you can have the face of the franchise for even a year or two, it will help your card values because the team who the player plays for will start picking them up. And on top of that, he will probably be traded, like I said, or he'll sign somewhere else, which will only help his values. So on top of everything else with Trevor Story, he's just extremely good, really undervalued. He led the league in stolen bases last year, extremely good defense, and on top of that, he can still crush the ball. He has worse splits than Arenado does, which is a little concerning, but not so much because of that same reverse cores effect. He was one of the highest strikeout guys in all the league, and that's been cut down like crazy the last 2 years. So he's improving every single year at the plate, and that's no fluke. He's a good player. So I'd consider looking to his cards. I want to highlight his Topps Update. His 2016 Topps Update card was selling for about $100 before the trade and now goes for about $200 after the trade. Just a heads up, he does not have many PSA 10 rookie cards. He has a pop 62 on his Topps Update rookie cards. So if you can get a few of those raw and grade them, you can get some serious cash because they're super scarce. But there's only been one sale since Arenado's been traded, and it's double what the last 2 sales were prior to the trade. And Trevor Story stuff will continue to rise, like I said, and I would look into him, Goldschmidt, and Arenado. And I think if you can buy a few of those, then you can make some serious money. With all these players, there's some risks. Trevor Story could extend with Colorado, and his cards are worth not as much because he's staying in Colorado on a bad team. With Goldschmidt, he could regress as an average 32 or 33-year-old first baseman will. And with Arenado, he could have a bad year. You know, he's not in Colorado anymore. It might shake him up. But I don't think that's likely for any of them. I truly expect all of them to have good years because aside from 1 or 2 seasons for Goldschmidt, he's been really good. Arenado last year was hurt, and that's why his offensive numbers dipped, but he's really good defensively still. The best defensive year he ever had was last year. If it had been over a full 162, his numbers would have been insane. And on top of that, Trevor Story is just getting better. So none of these players really have major injury history as well. So last year, Nolan Arenado has first or second time ever on the injured list, the IL. And on top of that, Goldschmidt's pretty healthy, and so is Story. Story had some stuff his rookie year, and he broke his hand or his thumb, stealing a base, I believe. So overall, all three are great players, and I want to hear what you think. Who do you think will be a good buy? Who are you going to be considering picking up? And I want to see who else you're also thinking is undervalued right now going into the season. So anyways, that's my analysis on how this trade really will affect these three players, and I think there's some serious money to be made, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. Thanks, guys. Please like and subscribe, and have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next video. Oh, gosh.